Welcome to our deep dive. Today, we're going to explore something that sounds almost unbelievable, how a crisis halfway around the world can actually shape the future of AI and even the medicine you take. It's a classic butterfly effect story. It totally is. And hey, before we get started, just a quick heads up for full transparency. Everything you're about to hear, the script, the analysis, all of it, except for the original news sources, of course, was generated by AI. So we're literally using the tech we're discussing to discuss the tech. Kind of meta, right? So let's just dive right into the big question that's at the heart of all this. How can a conflict in the Middle East possibly have anything to do with the future of your medicine? It sounds disconnected, but trust us, the lines are there. All right, so here's how we're going to connect those dots for you. First, we'll set the scene, a world on edge. Then, we'll watch how that tension starts a chain reaction, like a geopolitical domino. From there, we'll look at the surprising hidden costs of AI, and then pivot to see how all this chaos is actually creating this massive, high-stakes bet in the world of biotech. And we'll wrap it all up by asking, is this the new normal? Okay, let's jump in. Section 1, a world on edge. To understand this whole chain reaction, we have to start with one single event that's putting everyone on notice. And that's the conflict flaring up in Iran. Yeah, exactly. This conflict is happening right on the doorstep of the Strait of Hormuz. And this little sliver of water it's one of the most important shipping lanes on the planet. Think about this. Something like a fifth of the entire world's oil flows through that tiny choke point every single day. So you can imagine if anything happens there, well, the ripple effects are going to be huge, and they're going to be fast. And that brings us to our next piece of the puzzle. The geopolitical domino. This is where that ripple effect we just talked about stops being theoretical and starts hitting the global markets. Hard. Boom. The first, most immediate sign is the price of oil. It just shot up to $102 a barrel. And you got to understand, that $100 mark, it's more than just a number. It's a huge psychological trigger for the market. The second it crosses that line, alarm bells on inflation start ringing in finance ministries all over the world. And this isn't just an oil story, not by a long shot. The fear spreads like wildfire. Look at these numbers from the major markets. The S&P 500 in the US, the Nikkei in Japan, the Hang Seng in Hong Kong, they're all down. This is panic. Investors are selling not because of bad earnings reports, but because of pure, gut-wrenching uncertainty. It's what they call a risk-off move, and it's happening everywhere at once. Okay, so we've got soaring oil prices, shaky stock markets, but what in the world does any of that have to do with AI? One is about oil tankers and traders, the other is about algorithms and data centers. They seem totally unrelated, right? Well, it turns out there's a very real, very physical connection that most of us never even consider. Let's walk through it. See, the AI boom isn't just happening in the cloud, it's built on real stuff. It all starts with this crazy, unprecedented demand for semiconductor chips, the brains of AI. But here's the catch. These chips run incredibly hot and are under constant stress, so they need to be made with some seriously tough materials. And that's where this amazing metal called tungsten comes in. It's almost as hard as a diamond and can handle insane heat, which makes it absolutely essential for high-performance chips. And this is where a company you've probably never heard of suddenly becomes a massive deal. It's called MSR, which stands for Masan High-Tech Materials. Now, with all the geopolitical tension, companies are scrambling to find sources for these critical materials that aren't in China. And guess what? MSR, a Vietnamese company, just happens to own one of the biggest tungsten resources outside of China. All of a sudden, this one company in Vietnam is a hugely strategic player in the future of AI. And if you want to see what that strategic importance looks like in dollars and cents, just look at this price surge. It's absolutely insane. The price last year was hovering around $500. Today, it's $2,500. That's 5 times higher. We're not talking about a little market bump here. We're talking about a fundamental reevaluation of a core building block for the entire AI industry. Wild. So, okay, on one side, you have the AI industry dealing with this massive physical supply chain squeeze. But at the same time, another huge tech sector, biotech, is reacting to all this market chaos in a totally different way. For them, it's not about a shortage of materials. It's about a massive explosion of money and deals. And to get why this is happening, you have to understand this term they use in the industry called the patent cliff. It's pretty simple, really. Imagine you have a best-selling product, but the patent is about to expire.
Suddenly, anyone can make a cheaper version. That's what's happening to big pharma companies with their biggest multi-billion-dollar drugs. So to avoid falling off that revenue cliff, they're desperate to find the next big thing. They have to go on a massive shopping spree for innovation. And that shopping spree basically takes two forms. You hear the terms M&A and licensing deals all the time. Let's make it super simple. M&A, mergers and acquisitions, is when a big company just buys a smaller company outright. The whole thing. A licensing deal is different. That's when a big company pays a smaller one for the rights to develop and sell their drug. So it's the difference between buying the whole bakery versus just buying the secret recipe for their best-selling cake. And right now, both are happening like crazy. And this isn't just our take, by the way. We saw a report from the law firm Ropes & Gray that really backs this up. They said that while the start of 2025 was kind of slow, the second half of the year saw a marked uptick. I mean, that's putting it mildly. The floodgates just opened. It was a deal-making frenzy as companies scrambled to secure their futures. And the sheer amount of money changing hands is just mind-boggling. Just in licensing deals alone, that's the buying the recipe strategy, we're talking about more than $250 billion. That is a staggering figure. It's more than the last 5 years put together. It's a tidal wave of cash pouring into biotech innovation, all because of that pressure. But here's maybe the most interesting twist in this whole story. Who is getting bought? When you look at the biggest M&A deals, there's a clear trend. A full half of the top 10 largest deals involve Chinese biopharma companies. That's a massive shift. It tells you that China is no longer just a manufacturing hub, it's becoming a major engine of innovation for the entire global pharmaceutical industry. So let's step back for a second and try to connect all of this. It begs the question, right? Is this chaos the new normal? It almost feels like all these shocks, the geopolitical stuff, the market swings, the supply chain nightmares, it's not just a storm to wait out anymore. Maybe, just maybe, this constant state of disruption is actually what's building the foundation for the next wave of technology. And a great example of what that future looks like is this idea of a 6G AI native network. Now, don't just think of this as 5G but faster. It's not that at all. It's a completely different way of thinking about networks. The key idea here is AI native. It means AI isn't just an application running on the network. AI is the network. It's built into the very fabric of it, from the ground up to manage all the complex autonomous systems of the future. And the key thing to remember is this isn't some far-off science fiction idea. This is happening as we speak. You've got the biggest names in the game, Intel, NVIDIA, Qualcomm, Ericsson, all working together right now. They're building the hardware, writing the open source software. They are literally laying the bricks today for the network that's going to run the world in 2030. So it all comes full circle, doesn't it? A single conflict kicks off market volatility. That volatility puts a squeeze on the physical parts needed for AI, while at the exact same time it fuels a deal-making explosion in biotech. And all the while, the groundwork for a totally new AI-driven world is being laid. So the big thought we want to leave you with is this. In a world that seems to be in a constant state of shock, could it be that volatility itself has become the new engine for innovation?